The next unit that we are going to be working with involves roots, square roots, cube roots, fourth roots, and any root beyond that. We first need to understand what these roots mean. You're probably most familiar with the square root. So for instance, if you were given the square root of some number, I'm just going to call it A. This means the square root of the number A. So if you were given the square root of 25, the answer is 5 because 5 times 5 equals 25. What you don't see in this problem is what root they're actually talking about. There's actually an imaginary 2 sitting right here. So when you're just given this root symbol without a number out here, it means the square root. So you're looking for what number you can multiply to itself 2 times in order to get 25. If there's a little 3 out here in the root, like the cube root of some number, this is what number can you multiply 3 times to get that number under the root. So for instance, if you were looking to find the cube root of 8, the answer is 2 because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So what number can you multiply that number of times in order to get 8? Same thing with any other root. For instance, if you had a fourth root, for instance, the fourth root of 81 is going to be 3 because 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 81. What number can you multiply to itself 4 times in order to get 81? And again, this just continues no matter what the root that you're given. So if you were looking at these examples, this time we're only working with square roots, so the imaginary number that's sitting here is going to be a 2 in all of these problems. So we're looking for what number can we multiply to itself twice in order to get 36. So our answer is going to be 6 because 6 times 6 is 36. All you're going to need to come up with is this answer, but I'm going to explain why the answer is what it is over here. When there's a negative in front, that just means your final answer is going to be negative. So we know our answer is going to be negative. We're looking for a number that we can multiply to itself twice to get 16, and that would be 4. So our answer is negative 4. And that is because 4 times 4 equals 16. The negative in front just means that our answer is negative. When the number underneath is a fraction, like on number 3, one thing that you can do is separate this. So you could separate it into the square root of 9 over the square root of 100, and then just find each one individually. What number can we multiply to itself in order to get 9? Well, that's going to be 3. And what number can we multiply to itself to get 100? That would be 10, because 3 times 3 is 9, and 10 times 10 is 100. If we were looking at a decimal, like on number 4, we're trying to find a number that we can multiply to itself to get 0.64. Well, our answer would be 0.8 because 0.8 times 0.8 equals 0.64. So again, with square roots, just trying to figure out a number that you can multiply to itself to get that number underneath the root. The next set of examples are cube roots. So this time we're trying to think of what number we can multiply 3 times. So we're trying to figure out what number can we multiply 3 times to get negative 27. And our answer is negative 3. That is because negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 is negative 27. Because negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, and 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. Same thing here, we saw a fraction on number 3. We're going to see it again here on 6. So we can split this up into the cube root of 1 divided by the cube root of 125. The cube root of 1, what number can we multiply to itself 3 times to get 1? Well, that's just 1 because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And what number can we multiply to itself to get 125? Well, that's 5 because 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. On the next sheet, let's see, now we're working with different roots. We don't know which one it is until we see the problem. So on number 7, we see that it's a fourth root. So we're trying to think of what number can we multiply to itself 4 times to get 256. And our answer is 4 because 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. And 64 times 4 is 256. So our answer for the fourth root of 256 is 4. The next one is a fifth root. So we're trying to think of what number we can multiply 5 times to get negative 32. And our answer is negative 2 because negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 2 is 16. And 16 times negative 2 is negative 32. 9, the sixth root of negative 64. This question is asking what number can you multiply 6 times to get negative 64? Well, guess what? There's no answer here. Because if we thought of 2, well, think about what we had here. This is taking negative 2 and multiplying it 5 times. If we were to take this negative 32 and multiply it by another negative 2, we get a positive 64. There's no way for us to get a negative number when we're trying to multiply it 6 times. And this applies to any even root. If you have a square root, a fourth root, a sixth root, an eighth root, so on and so forth, and the number underneath the root is a negative, you cannot get an answer for this one. Number 10 has that negative in front, which again just means that our answer is negative. So now we're trying to think of what number we can multiply 3 times to get to 16, and that would be 6. So our answer is negative 6. That's because 6 times 6 is 36. 36 times 6 is 216. So again, the only time you can't get an answer here is if the root is even and the number underneath is negative. You can have a negative with an odd root, just not with an even root. The last set of examples, we are actually going to find the approximate answer. So we're just going to be plugging these into the calculator. So just plug square root of 10 into your calculator. And in this case, it tells you to round to the nearest hundredths. So that's 2 numbers after. So you hit the square root button in your calculator and your answer is going to be some decimal. Ours would be a 3-point number. Make sure that you round it to 2 numbers after. Remember, in order to round it, you want to look at the third number after. If that number is 0 through 4, leave this guy as it is. If this number here is a 5 through 9, make sure you round this number up. Square root of 27, again, you're just plugging it into the calculator. The square root of 27 is a 5-point number. Again, you're going to round it to 2 numbers after, so you want to look at that third number to see what that hundredths place would be. And then on the square root of 8, this answer is going to be 2 point something. And again, look at the third digit in order to determine what that hundredths digit should do.